Hi guys, Miss Chris here. So today in our video we're going to talk about troubleshooting. Troubleshooting is when we are going to address some problems that keep coming up, and hopefully if we look at those things up close, we can address them, and then you can sew from here on out frustration free. So the first one that I keep seeing quite a bit is when you're sewing your running stitch and then you're not leaving quite enough floss on the end of your needle to tie off. So we're going to take a look at that up close. And then the other thing that I see is sometimes you'll be sewing along and then you accidentally go around, and we have to figure out how to get that stitch back from around your piece of work and going in a straight line again. And one more thing is sometimes the floss has a tendency to want to tangle up behind your work. So we're going to look at how to take care of that, and hopefully you won't need to deal with any of those things anymore. So come a little bit closer and let's take a look. Okay, so one of the first things I want to show you is we talked about floss, and when you buy your floss in a store, it comes in a skein like this, but I like to wind mine on little cards because I think it just keeps it organized a little bit better. Your floss has 6 strands in it, so in the whole big piece, it comes apart into 6 little strands. I use 2 at a time, 2 or 3 at the most. So what you have to do is you have to cut yourself a length of floss like this. I recommend about an arm's length, and then you're going to have to divide it. And most of our projects, we're going to use 2 strands of floss. This one has already had some taken out of it. I used a piece already, so I've got only 4 left, but I'm going to divide it into 2. And this is how you do it. So you just hold it in your hands and you're just going to pull it gently apart. Sometimes it has a tendency to want to get wrapped up and a little bit tangly, but if you go slow and just let it do its thing, sometimes it gets a little long too, and you'll have to kind of readjust here. Pull, pull, pull till you get to the end like that. And then we're just going to set that little guy aside, and we're going to use this one. And you want to make sure your ends are even like that. Okay, and I'm going to show you up close how we tie a knot. And I'm going to show you how I thread a needle as well. So I like to loop it over the needle like this, and then you've got a little bend right there, and it just pokes very nicely through the needle. Then we are going to make it so that these 2 ends are even, like that. So we've got our 2 ends even right here. Now I'm a righty, so if you happen to be a lefty, you're going to reverse this. But I'm going to hold the eye of the needle in my left hand between my thumb and pointer. I'm going to take the end of the 2 pieces of floss and pinch it right there with the eye of the needle between my thumb and finger, and then take this piece and wrap it around 1, 2, 3 times. Use my pointer to poke it right in there so I can be grabbing my wraps as well. Now, while I'm holding with this finger, these 2 fingers, I'm going to pull my needle, pull, 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 all the way to the end until I get my knot. Ta-da! I think that's the coolest thing. So now that we have our floss separated, the needle is threaded, we have our knot, we are going to start sewing. And we're going to talk about some trouble that we might have along the way here, okay? So when I'm sewing 2 pieces of felt or fabric together, I'm going to come in from the inside so that my knot is hidden right in that little, right in between the 2 pieces. So I'm going to be sewing along, and one thing that will keep me out of trouble is if I check the back of my work every couple stitches. So I've made, let's do 3. I've made 3 stitches, and I want to turn my work over and look at the back. And oh good, I don't have any problems going on back here. Because what will happen sometimes is you can get a little knot. And of course, when I want a knot, I don't get one. But we're going to just pretend that's a knot, okay? And you can be sewing along and realize too late that you've got a knot back there. So then what do? You have to, when you turn it over and realize what happened, you're just going to kind of fiddle around with it with your fingers. You might need to use the eye of the needle to do some wiggling around. And then you're just going to pull, give this a little pull, and you're going to catch the rest of that thread up and pull it into your work and keep going. But another trick is, as you're working, every few stitches, just, it's hard to tell from this angle, but let your thread dangle, and because it will tend to want to twist as you're pulling it through the felt. So just let your needle kind of hang there and it will untwist by itself, and that will make it so that it won't get so tangly on the back. Okay, another problem that we have sometimes is when we're sewing along, running stitches up and down, and sometimes when we're not paying too close of attention, we want to go around, or we don't want to, but we do. And then you might have something that looks like that. So can you see how I went around right there instead of up and down? So we're going to have to go back. Now when you're using felt, sometimes you can pull it to the side and I can see the hole, and I can stick my needle back in and we can see if we can save it. And in this case, I did. The only thing that happened is I caught a little bit of the felt under there. So I'm going to clip that little thread of felt, but not my floss. And I've freed that up and I can keep on going. Now, sometimes if you're sewing with fabric or if you get it too tangled, what you're going to have to do is clip it off and tie a knot. So with this next issue that sometimes happens a lot, actually, I keep seeing this happen over and over. So you'll be sewing along and you're so close to the end and you only have, I'm going to pull this back through. You only have maybe this much thread left when you get to the end, but you just want to do those last few stitches and you don't want to stop and start a new one. But what happens now is you can see that there's not enough floss for you to tie off. And so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to cut your needle off, and you're going to have to use your fingers and just tie these two little pieces in a knot by hand, okay? Because there's nothing you can do when you've sewn it up to this point. Unless, well, sometimes what you will have to do is you're going to have to cut the needle off, and then you may even have to unthread or unpick a few stitches so that you have a long enough piece to tie off. And I'm going to show you right now how we do the tying off, okay? So you're going to find your last stitch. This is hard, I should have used a contrasting color. But you find the last little stitch that you made, you can see that, and you're going to pull it through like that. You're going to put your needle through the loop and give it a little tug. And I like to do that 2 times before you cut. Okay, so hopefully that helps you take care of a couple of those problems. The biggest ones I see are not leaving enough floss to tie off in the end. So make sure that your floss is longer than your needle, and that way you'll be able to tie it off comfortably. And that's it, you guys. So hopefully if you can remember to keep an eye on those 3 things, you'll be off to the races and your project will be perfect. I'll see you next time.